Hello, this is Greg Deckler, and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. All right, so I've got three things to cover in this video. Oh yeah, okay, man. All right, almost had a panic attack there. God forbid anybody sees what's on the other side of that board. Joking, of course. All right, so anyway, so three things to cover in this video. As you can see, the first one is I'm not using a virtual background anymore, and that is because my son and we have created the Conspiracy Microsoft Hates Greg board IRL. So this is all, we printed out all of the different stuff. This is on a cork board. It's real thumbtacks, real string, everything. So this is going to be the background for our channel from now on. And my son and we had a great time. He's the one that created the image originally. So we had a great time putting this together as the new background for the channel. Okay, so with that, I will get out of full screen mode because God forbid I look bad enough in a thumbnail, let alone full screen. So, second thing to cover in this video. Uh, so January 19th, I've declared it as International Power BI Measure Total Meme Day. All right, so what that means is on January 19th, create a measure total meme for Power BI. If you've been following my meme posts on LinkedIn, you know what I'm talking about. So just go ahead and create one yourself and post on LinkedIn at me in the post. And I've recruited Brian Julius and Rick DeGroot and myself to be judges, and we'll judge the memes. We'll probably put some video content together around it, hopefully for all of our different channels. And then, we'll declare the winners and we'll get prizes. I don't know what the prizes will be right now. Maybe an Enterprise DNA subscription, maybe a signed book. We'll ask the winners, what they're looking for, and what suits them best. So, hopefully everybody can have fun with it. There've already been some early bird memes posted that are just really funny. People seem to be having a good time with it. So, and that's the purpose of it. Just have fun. Okay, so the actual real subject of this video is scatter chart QR codes. So if you've been following, I've done a lot with scatter charts over the years. In terms of visualization, I visualized certain formulas. I created a ray tracer with scatter chart. I have done a bunch of stuff with it, fractals. And then one of the latest ones was I created an animated erupting volcano, right? Which was kind of fun to put together and totally, not practical, but what the heck. So I got to thinking, what else can I use these for? And I was thinking QR codes. So now I got to admit that this is not the video I wanted to put together, which is the interesting thing about QR codes is, let me bring this up, is that it's really hard to find any real good information about the algorithm. And it turns out it's pretty sophisticated. As a matter of fact, because there's error correction built into the QR code algorithm, so that if a QR code is like smudged or somewhat damaged, that you can actually recover the data and get the information. So it's funny. The best I could find on QR code algorithm was this Matcha Designs QR code demystified part. It's a 6-part series. And it's kind of funny because they actually complain about how difficult it is to find a complete information, and then they put together this 6-part blog series, which kind of does, best I could describe it as kind of a craptastic, description of the algorithm. And I'll get to why I mean that. I mean, they do a good job of overview, about QR codes and, how they are. And then they go into and like talk about versions. So there's different versions of QR codes, because they can range anywhere from up to a 40 by 40 grid, all the way down to, I forget what the smallest is, but, there's a bunch of different versions of these things. So and they talk about it here, but where it starts to get problematic is they come here to part 3 and they talk about how to do the basic encoding, which is pretty straightforward. They talk about, they give examples, right? ABC is 10 times 45, equals 450, plus B is 11, you get 461. Anyway, there's a whole algorithm for it, right? But where it gets problematic is they come down here and they don't follow one example all the way through. So that's one problem. So I can't write the DAX code and then check each step, right, to make sure I'm getting the right answers. They're flipping back and forth between different examples, and the information they provide is kind of incomplete. So it says, so if you encoded all your data, there's space left over, you need to add some padding. First add 000, then if it's the number of bits your data is divisible by 8, add zeros until it is. but are we adding zeros to the beginning or to the end? Then alternately add, these byte, sequences until you've reached the limit. Again, are we adding them to the beginning? Or are we adding them to the end? Does it matter? So they don't really. So here's a tip for anybody that's writing tech blog articles. One, follow one example all the way through. Two, be very specific. Do not leave ambiguity, because this basically kind of ground the whole creating the DAX algorithm for QR codes to a halt, because they're not being very specific about this. But I implore you, any viewers that are out there, all six of you, if you're watching this and you have better Google foo or search foo than I do, and you can find an actual real description of a QR code, provides an example, very clear, unambiguous, if you will. I'd love to see it, because I still think that this is all doable, in terms of getting these different error corrections. I mean, there's a ton of information in this article. It's just not very specific. And so that makes it difficult. But all right, so what are we supposed to do instead? Well, plan B. Plan B is we can go to a QR code generator like qrcode-tiger.com. And so if, say, I want to create a QR code for HTTPS and gregdeckler.com, that's my blog site, then I can just generate it, and I can choose my pattern, and you get something like this, right? So here's my QR code. And what happens is that, okay, so let's say we're going to put this into a scatter chart. Well, this is Y1 and X1, right? And we can count across here to get the XY coordinates for each of these dots. Okay, and it's a little bit of work. There's no doubt about it, but it ends up looking something like, oh, here's my code. So the code, is pretty simple, really, as far as I could get with it. In terms of converting things to bytes, I'm actually using my deck to binary, DEC2BIN, which was a recreation of an Excel function. So I'm actually using that in this code. So I'm encoding it as decimal, and then I convert it to binary, and I can do all that stuff, right? But this is where I kind of ended, which was the example they gave, and when it got to, well, how am I supposed to pad this thing with extra bits? All right, so that's that. But I still think it's possible. Would love somebody to point me in the direction of an algorithm that I could like follow and recreate it, because it looks eminently doable. So that you could actually feed it some alphanumeric characters, and DAX would actually generate the QR code for you. But without that, what you can do, and probably should have had this. What I did was, again, I went out to QR code tagger, or QR code tiger.com. And we'll get this over here eventually. And what I did was I went and did exactly what I said I did. I went and took the Y coordinates, and then I entered all the X coordinates as kind of commas. This was kind of the quick way of doing it. This was a version 29, apparently, so it's a 29 by 29 grid. So what you end up with is, 1 through 29 as far as your Y, and then you have your X components here. And then I can do a split column by delimiter, and then I can unpivot the other columns. I can remove a column, and eventually, here I get to, here's my XY coordinates, right? So here's all my Y rows, here's all my X components for that, etc. And it looks a little something like this when you're done. So when you put it into a visual, this here and do this. All you have to do is drag X into the X axis and Y into the Y axis, not summarize them or anything, and you get this QR code. Which, QR codes, right? I mean, if there's things that have, if you look talking about losers and winners from COVID, right? QR codes, along with dogs, have to be like by far the winners, right? That's all we do now is go to restaurants and scan the QR code. That's all we did during COVID. So let's see if I bring up my camera here, and all right. So I don't know if you can see this or how well this will come out, maybe, but you can see it actually figured out that it's gregdeckler.com. Now it went away, but it actually worked. It's the point. I can point my camera at this thing, and it actually, goes and it figures out that this is a URL for gregdeckler.com. So I don't know if this, again, we don't do practical things on this channel necessarily. Some of it is. This is probably not. Although if I could actually get an algorithm for DAX, then maybe it'd be kind of cool. You could actually include QR codes within your Power BI reports to provide additional information over here or there. Even though it'd probably be easier to just go out to QR code dash tagger and then grab the image and paste it in. But it'd really cool if we could do it in DAX. So hopefully a viewer out there knows of a QR code algorithm that's far, far better than that matcha.com or matcha designs or whatever it was, which kind of, it's so close, right? So close. So anyway, that is all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the new background, and I hope you participate in International Power BI Measure Total Meme Day on January 19th, 2023. I'll see you all later.